Radhika, you can start now. Jolly Ma'am is here.
Sir, I got you.
Radhika, unmute yourself. You can start.
Very good afternoon, one and all present here. I am Radhika Vaidya, Research Scholar, Amity School of Communication. I would like to invite Dr. Jolly Jose, Associate Professor, Assistant Director, Research, Amity School of Communication, to deliver the welcome address. Over to you, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Most respected, Honorable Vice Dr. Professor Balvendra Suklaji, Professor D.K. Bandabadiya, sir, the esteemed resource persons, consortium members coordinator, Dr. Mehak Jonjo, the team members and the coordinators of this program, Dr. Ruhilal and Professor Dharmendra Kumar, and all the esteemed this program from different parts of the world, number of participants from the Indian context. A very, very warm welcome to each and every one to this wonderful 7 days workshop on research, project writing, and data analysis. First of all, let me congratulate the team, Dr. Ruhilal and Professor Dharmendra Kumar, for organizing with such a relevant topic to take the faculty and research fraternity to the heights of learning that is related to exclusive learning on project writing and data analysis. Knowledge, it bridges the gaps, and to take knowledge ahead becomes very, very important. And it's a huge call for all of us, all the research practitioners here, the young researchers here, to invest in meaningful research. At this occasion, I would like to welcome on behalf of Amity University in this exercise of enhancing research and skills, research-based skills very specifically. First of all, to all the participants, let me welcome. And we are very, very happy to have you in Amity campus. Amity is a research-based university, and Amity School of Communication focuses a lot of research in our PhD programs and curriculum-based activities. And I also welcome today's speakers, very specifically Professor Dr. Shah Ahmed Khan from the University of Al-Buraimi, Oman. And we have another speaker, Professor Manish, Dean and School of International Studies, Central University of Gujarat. Most welcome, sir. And we have Professor Dr. Subhash Dolia, Professor, Indian Institute of Mass Communication and IGNO. And I also welcome Professor Tapan and Mohanty from the Law Institute of University Bhopal. And we have Professor Ambrish Saxena from DME Media School. And we have other wonderful resource persons like Naveen Srivastava from Birla Institute of Management and Technology, Greater Noida. And we have Satya Brother Road, Professor from Central University, Hyderabad. Dr. Professor Prasenjit Dasgupta from ICFA University, Faculty of Management Studies, Tripura. We have Dhanpati Sharma, Professor, Department of Business Communication and Research, Royal University, Bhutan. And Kesarnath, Professor Kesarnath Dankal, Department of Statistics and Applied Mathematics, Royal University of Bhutan, and Professor Purna Prasad Sharma, Finance and Business Research, Royal University of Bhutan, and Professor Kania Ahuja from Delhi Alia University of Indore, and Professor Deep Nair from Central University of Himachal, Professor Sumit Nerula from Amity School of Communication, Amity University, Gwalior. And the experts and the knowledge of these resource persons explicitly shows the depth of this 7 days workshop which is ahead. And I once again welcome wholeheartedly each one of you to Amity campus. It is virtually. Wish that you could be in the campus physically. It would have been lovely. And you are always welcome to Amity School of Communication and Amity campus, Noida. And wish you all a very, very fruitful hands-on learning. When you look at the topics, you can ensure that you will be enriched with a number of skills. You can count the skills at the end of this workshop, and wish you all once again very, very excellent learning time and a very hearty welcome to each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your warm welcome and your factful facts. Now I would request Professor Dr. Meg Jonjua, Professor Assistant Director Academics, Amity School of Communication, to share a few words. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Radhika. Good afternoon to all and one present here. Welcome to this research workshop. Now, this research workshop will provide hands-on experience in a range of analytical techniques. The success is in part because they respond to the needs of students, members, and therefore tend to be both relevant and timely. Such workshops will not only be providing you a platform to learn new aspects, new trends, and new perspectives, but will also be providing a way to enter into the professional world and to be enhance your skills in a professional setup. Perks of attending such events offer invaluable and well worth swallowing your pride for. And thank you once again for joining this workshop, and I hope you have a good learning experience. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am, for your kind words. Now I would request Dr. Ruhi Lal, Associate Professor, Head Student Support, Amity School of Communication, to give a brief introduction about the workshop. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Radhika, for giving me opportunity. So a very warm welcome to all the participants present here. So I'm very happy and enthusiastic to share with all of you that we have received more than 1,500 participants who approached us for this workshop, and finally 300 participants, more than 300 participants registered successfully for this workshop. So this workshop is an instructional tool like lecture, but the only difference is this is learning by doing it. So this workshop is designed for practical learning in the form of interactive sessions in which the participants work, in which the participants intensively involved in question answer round and trying to solve all the queries, whatever are there in their mind. So the workshop will focus on the structure of research project writing, review of literature, writing techniques, and the queries will be handled then and there. And the focus will be on qualitative data analysis, qualitative data coding, and quantitative data analysis with the help of softwares like SPSS and MOS for model fit. So with the help of dummy data, we will try to help you how to learn data analysis technique. So this workshop aims to understand the nuances of writing different sections of research project, and the workshop will help in developing the ability to appropriately frame and structure a research project. So it also aims to understand the requirement for publication, create a platform for knowledge generated with an interdisciplinary approach with amalgamation of theoretical knowledge, research, and the practical approach in research writing. So this workshop will help to advance a synergistic relationship between the research and practice, focusing on promoting the research project writing skills of the research scholar and academician, all the participants who have joined. So it will also help to outline a research tool and methods which have emerged in the post-COVID era. So this workshop will enable the research in developing appropriate methodology and understand the analysis method. So with this workshop, we are aiming outcome-based learning and inculcating research mindsets in communication and media research. So we look forward that after completion of this workshop, participants will be able to develop skills, research aptitude required to engage the teaching media research. So there will be special focus on identifying cloned and predatory journals and understanding data analysis with the help of softwares like SPSS and MOS for the model fit. So thank you so much, all of you, for joining us through this platform. And this would be a very good learning opportunity for all of you. I'm very happy to inform all of you that Professor Dr. Sumit Narula has joined. Thank you, sir, for joining. So, Radhika.
Thank you, Dharmendra. Thank you. I can see a lot. Very excited to see you all, although we are not physically there, but yes, emotionally I'm with ASCO, Noida. I started my career there, so thank you.
Welcome, Sumit Narula. Nice to see you here.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ruhi ma'am, for your brief in details about the workshop, and thank you, sir, for joining. Now I would request Professor Dr. Dharmendra Kumar, Professor, Head Examination and Assessment, to give a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Radhika. I am honored to be part of it, where learning not only means exploring new arenas, but also upgrading our skills. On behalf of gratitude to Founder President Sir, Dr. Ashok K. Chauhan, Atul Chauhan, Vice Chancellor Ma'am, Professor Dr. Balwinder Shukla, Professor Dr. D.K. Bandyopadhyay Sir for their blessings and continuous support. A sincere thanks from the bottom of my heart to Sagina Huda Ma'am, Assistant Registrar, Amity Academic Staff College, Professor Colonel R.K. Dagan Sir, Advisor, Amity School of Communication, Professor Dr. Mehak Jonjua, Assistant Director, Head Academics, Dr. Jolly Jose, Associate Professor, Assistant Director, Head Research, for their guidance and valuable support. I would also like to thank IT Department of Amity, without which the smooth flow of our event would have been difficult. Sincere thanks to our core team members, faculty members, staff, and research scholars. A wide round of applause and thanks to all the participants who made the program a memorable one and which provided us a great learning. Finally, I would like to thank all of you present here for making the time to be with us today and helping us make this event a grand success. Thank you, one and all. Thank you so much. Thank you, Radhika.
Thank you, sir. Now it's time for us to begin with the first session of the workshop at 2 o'clock. Thank you.
I would like to request Professor Dr. Sumit Narula, Dean, Research and Publication, to say a few words.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for this opportunity. It's always an excitement to be with the team, which I worked previously for around 3 years. And I'm very excited to be a part of this workshop, which Ruhi ma'am, Dharmendra sir, and they have taken the initiative. It's a nice initiative. We must do as much as we can do in research, because there is a lot of gray area in communication research, because we can see a lot of the people are there, but not much of the research is coming out. And ASCO being the biggest one in Noida, having most of the faculties and having the highest number of research scholars, the onus is on them also to produce good and best research in country. And yes, we from the Gwalior are also trying to help them and support them from our side. So it's going to be a very exciting journey for every attendee. And I can see there are 100 plus attendees. So all the attendees, I will also be joining you all the times. My session is on 28th, that specific session on catching fake predatory and clone journals, where I will be giving you the nuances to catch them. But it is really a big honor to have this kind of research workshop, and I'm very excited to be a part of it. And let's hear from the people. I think I have just got the detail that Shad is speaking from Oman. He's one of the best in this field, and Dr. Manish Sharma, everybody knows him, that he's also one of the best in this area. So I'm pretty excited to hear from them. And once again, thanks to the organizers and to the university team, because we are from the sister university. So it's like the win-win situation whenever there is an opportunity with ESCO Noida. Thank you. Thank you, Ruhi ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir. So we will start with the session, with the very first session. So I would request the moderator for the first session to please join.
Yeah, good afternoon, ma'am. I'm here and I'm waiting for the resource person because we have communicated we will start at 2 o'clock. So
Okay.
he may be joining, and in between we can take few minutes break, and then we'll begin the session 1. I think sir is about
Sir
to
has
join.
joined.
I think, yeah, I can see him now. So can we begin the session, ma'am? Or we'll take a break for 10 minutes?
We can start.
Okay. Yeah, Professor Shad is here. He joined from Oman, and now we are coming up with the first session of this workshop. So, good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Amity School of Communication, I, Poonam Gaur, welcome you all on the day 1 of the workshop on research project writing and data analysis. And now I would like to introduce a resource person for session 1, Professor Dr. Shad Ahmed Khan. Welcome, sir. I hope I am audible and visible too.
Let me check my system as well. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone in
Yes.
India. I hope I'm audible to all of you.
Yes, sir, you are audible as well as visible too. So thank you so much, sir, for accepting our invitation and sparing your valuable time for this workshop. Professor Shad Ahmed Khan is working as professor in College of Business, University of Al-Buraimi in Saltanate of Oman, and heading the chair of Staff Professional Development, Affiliation and Linkages Committee and chair of Entrepreneurship Consultancy Committee. He is a passionate public speaker and a dedicated business management learner who is open to adopt different working cultures and environment with educational specialization in the field of marketing. And his professional strength is in the field of business law, journal management, and soft skills development. An active academician and researcher who is imparting his knowledge and skills to the industry through consultancy projects, and having a sufficient background of organizing academic events of international level in the form of conferences, seminars, workshops, competitions, with the zeal of forming professional association. As a convener, Dr. Shad has organized more than 10 international conferences and many international webinars. With a professional experience of more than a decade of working in 3 countries, Dr. Shad is widely traveled and well exposed to the global scenario. Presently, he is member of many international professional groups, editorial boards of journal, and member of advisory board of 16 universities. He has served many administrative positions in the university. He is recipient of Academic Achievement Award by Royal University of Bhutan for his innovative teaching pedagogy in 2014. He also got Teaching Excellence Award by Indira Gandhi Research Center, University Grant Commission India for the year 2020, and Human Resource Award for Academic Excellence 2020 by Dr. Gaur Hari Singhania Institute of Management and Research Kanpur and Novel Academy Pokhara, Nepal during 6th International HR Summit, Nuanced 2020. Professor Khan published 30 papers, publication in refereed journal with index in Scopus and ABDC. He has published 7 books, has presented papers in more than 30 international conferences, chaired, co-chaired 20 international conferences. He has delivered more than 50 invited talks in various universities, participated in many international workshops, and completed 4 consultancy projects for the industry and 5 funded research projects under mid-career research category. So now I'm not going to waste more time, and I would like to invite Professor Khan for this session. Sir will discuss about presentation techniques of academic research work. Over to you, sir. And welcome to Amity. Sir, you are on mute.
Okay, good afternoon, one and all present here. Thank you so much for giving me this lovely opportunity. I was a bit lost in setting up my PPT. At the outset, my sincere regards to Dr. Poonam for introducing me very comprehensively. Thank you so much. A bigger thanks to Dr. Ruhila, Professor Dharmendra for inviting me today here. It is indeed a real honor for me to be here today. And it is more like an enjoyment for me whenever I get an opportunity like this to discuss with the younger lot, because somewhere I feel that 10 or 15 years back in time, the kind of issues that we were facing when we started our research journey, I believe the similar issues most of the younger lots must be facing today. So that's where I am today. Thank you so much for inviting. So here is my presentation, Novice to Nuanced, presentation techniques of academic research work. There are going to be series of myth busters that I am going to do today, because the way we deal with academic research is, it is not exactly the same we talk about the other kind of work that we are doing. So let's get started, and in the process, we will have some interaction as well. So how we are going to do about it and what things that we are doing. And I'm sure that you will find some sort of differences about the beliefs that you have so far and the things we are going to discuss today. And my sincere apology to the senior people here, because there will be many things which I'll be talking about. If you beg to differ with me, we can always have a deliberation and we can have discussion. So I'm also a learner. So in case I commit a mistake, I'm open for discussion. So with this disclaimer, let's get started. So my first point is, what is research? Being the first session, we need to have a clarity what we call research. And if we talk about it, it is a systematic search for knowledge through method of study, observation, comparison, and experiment. Especially when my business students, they often get so much engrossed with the kind of activities that we are in, because once they are entering into the research methodology classes, a lot of emphasis is given on analysis part. Suddenly the new terms like SPSS, which is monster for most of us at that point of time, PLSM, then the bibliometric analysis, all these kind of monstrous words start bothering us. And we feel that unless and until we use these words, everything is going to be in vain. So research is not that. It can be your own observation. It can be comparison. It can be an experiment, which we used to do in our high schools and our senior secondary school. Everything that we do is research. As long as we are addressing to the problem, we are filling the gap, and that is the research. The only thing is that we have to justify at a relative state, because this research belongs to you, and you are the one who is going to take care of everything. As long as you're able to defend it, your research is through. So the first thing is that if we are starting to do a research, we have to take the ownership of it. It is our research and we have to take responsibility. If we feel that we are going to contribute something, we can do it. Now, what is a research process? Any action, anything that you do in between to accomplish your effective research, it's a research process, a series of actions. So don't take away with the bombastic words that are coming on your way. The first thing is that many times we are so scared to do research that we don't do research at all. The same thing applies with English language in case of India. We are so much scared of English language that we don't speak English because we are so much careful about the grammar, about the prepositions, about the sentences, vocabulary, etc., that we forget to speak. So for any activity, the first step is that you start doing it. Unless and until you do it, you cannot do things in a proper way. So let's get started with the journal research process. I'll be just giving you a 10-step model, and then I'll come on my main part, and that is research presentation. Okay. So the first thing is formulating a research problem. Research starts with a problem. From where we are going to get this problem, it's something that we are going to have by way of a clarity. This research problem starts with, for example, you see suddenly a brand of mobile phone fails in the market. And you are not clear why that particular mobile phone failed. Like when Nokia failed, many people were having apprehension how Nokia, a giant company like Nokia, failed. Now, if you want to study that whether your locality had any sort of influence on Nokia, or what was the brand perception of Nokia in your locality, or how it has suddenly got changed, you can go for a problem statement. That is a research. You can conduct it. I am sure if Apple does not continue to innovate their product, they do not abreast themselves with the technology and the evolving thing which is happening in future, they will also fail in future. So whenever you see any problem which is around you and you want to justify, you want to address to it, you want to study why that problem happened, or you want to see a series of actions that can lead to that problem. Like one of my students, when I was working in Bhutan, the problem was that they have an excessive dependency on Indian currency. They had excessive dependency on Indian currency. So one of my students, he identified, he came to me once and he said, "Sir, we are buying so many things from India. What we are giving India in return? What we are sending into India is less, and what we are taking from India is more. So it means we are importing more, we are exporting less. Don't you think we'll be having a currency crisis soon?" This was in 2012. By 2013, government of Bhutan declared that country was undergoing currency crisis. A student who triggered just 6 or 7 months before, he just identified something. He was an undergrad student. And once he identified it that there is something which is going to happen, he identified it and he addressed it. And his simple analysis was he compared the import and export imbalances. Okay, so that was a good research and it was later on published and acknowledged as well. So once you have identified a research problem, the next thing you have to do is that how you are going to do that research. Okay, you can compare it, you want to observe. Many people, they disregard observation method. Observation is actually a very good method. Observation too is a good method. You can go for empirical study, you can go for interview method, you can go for surveys, but many people, they disregard observation. Observation too is a good method. Most of the journalism is purely based on observation. If you see, most of the journalism-based researches, it is based on observation. People go to the field and they do field studies and they are doing something which you call as field reports. So it is based on observation, which is highly disregarded in the research world. I don't know why. But the next thing is that you have to construct an instrument for data collection, whether you are going for questionnaire method or you are going for an interview method. You will select the sample, how you are going to approach those data. You have two options, whether you cover the entire population, and if you cannot cover the entire population, you select a sample of it. I often take the example of rice bag. When we want to buy rice from the market, and we are not sure which brand or which quality of rice we want to buy, we just take a small sample, and that small sample is representative of the entire bag. So the sack of rice can be represented by a small sample. That is what the sample is. That you cannot cover a population of 100,000 people. You select an appropriate sample of 200 to 300 people. If you are applying a Cressy-Morgan formula, 384 would be a figure. So you can apply that one and you will get a sample size, and that sample size is something that you can conduct a research on. So that is again a technique. I'm sure that professors in upcoming session, they'll be talking about it. You can develop a proposal. There are many institutions, they don't allow their students and scholars to conduct the research without approval of the proposal. And if you are applying for a proposal, there are many kind of grants that are available to you. I take an opportunity to announce here that I have recently received a grant value of 52,000 USD from Ministry of Higher Education in Oman, and we are going to conduct a research on it. Now, the advantage is that the money that was required to conduct that research, we already have that value. So we don't have to spend money from our pocket. We don't have to be after our directors and deans to give us money from the university budget. So we have received this money from the ministry and we can conduct the researches. You can collect the data, process the data, then you can write a research report. And then this step comes where you are checking for similarity index, you are going for the preprints of it, and then you are going for publication or conference presentation. So this is what the entire steps of research is. I'll not go in detail for this one because I'm sure Professor Lal has kept some people in the upcoming session. I'll not take away their content. So I'll completely come on the topic which I'm supposed to speak on today. So this is what the novice to nuance cycle is all about. You start as a novice and then you become expert, which you call as nuance. If I want to place myself today, I'll keep somewhere in this area, which is competent. I'll not say that I'm very proficient. I'll not say I'm an expert, but I'm somewhere as competent. Now, what is novice, which I believe most of you are right now? Most of you, the difference between me and you is that most of you are either at the novice stage or at the beginner stage. I have slightly advanced myself so far as a self-evaluation. So as a novice, when we started research, we had no professional experience. I remember I used to ask my colleagues when I started my academic journey that how we come to know about conferences. My colleague responded that I get emails and I like them, I simply apply. I said, how do I get email? He says, you start applying. I said, how? That's the problem. How I can know that the conferences are happening? So that is the concern when you start your career, because many a time we are not aware about how conferences are happening. We are not aware. Then one good guy, he came to my life and he gave me the link of conferencealert.com. So that was the initial days. Now that I'm talking about a time when WhatsApp was not that prominent, Facebook was not that advanced. So he gave me the link of conferencealert.com and I applied for my first conference. So when I was even not aware about C of conference, I'm talking about that era. So I was really having no professional experience. I did not know how to go for the conferences. Forget about publishing paper. Then came the next stage. I asked some of my friends how we publish paper. That time, anyone who will publish my paper in anything, I used to have a feeling of accomplishment. I was not aware about the indexes like Scopus, Web of Science, etc. Even UGC care list was not available that time. Even we were not sure whether the journals in which we are publishing, they are actually a recognized journal also or not. So if anybody was approaching us, asking us to send the articles, just like our schools, our school principal, they give you a notification that we are going to have the annual school magazine or something, just give an article. So that was the kind of publication we had. So we were novice at that time. I'm sure many of you are having that stage right now. Then suddenly you start becoming beginner when you attend workshops like this, thanks to people like Dr. Ruhi Lal, who organize these kind of workshops. Then you try to grab some sort of knowledge and then you are able to differentiate something in between. Then comes the era of being competent, where I consider myself right now, that at least we are able to understand the action terms and long range goals. We know the different terminology that are prevailing in the industry. Then comes proficient and experts. So I'm sure that the professors will be coming in upcoming sessions. They will be of a higher category. So let's get into my actual topic, and that is a research talk. And this is where I'm going to burst the myths, especially my management people who are sitting here. What is the purpose of a research talk? I'll give you some examples. Its main objective is to impress the audience, isn't it? Tell them that you know about the subject. I know I'm the expert. present every detail about your work. So this is what we do when we are giving our MBA presentations or mass communication and journalism presentations. So when we come in the class, we come like a boss and we say that, okay, we have to give a very good kind of presentation. My dear friends, the purpose of research talk is not to impress the audience. It is not to tell them that you know about the subject. It is not to present every detail of your life. You are not sitting in an interview to impress people. It is to give audience the sense of what your work is, because we are trying to solve a problem. And you cannot have absolute solution to solve a problem. So we are trying to look a sense, maybe the better response may come from the audiences who are attending your session. Another objective is to make them read your paper. Even with all of activities, we are not able to give them an opportunity to read our papers. Okay, the readership, the authorship today is more, the readership of paper is less. So we have to give them a chance, influence them to read your paper, and get a feedback on the work. So the purpose of research talk is not what we are presenting so far. It is like, it is instead of, in very simple words, if I say, it is instead of giving, the purpose of research talk is to take. It is more on the receiving side. We have to receive more from the audiences. So this is a small cartoon. I can give you the link of it. In the interest of time, let's go ahead. So who is the audience that we are going to have? So we have to understand who is our audience. And according to the audience, we have to prepare our research talk. There can be social scientists who are expert in our field. There can be social scientists who are not expert in our field. There can be students, there can be non-experts. The research talk that we are going to prepare has to take care of type of people who are available. We cannot just create a research saying that everybody is expert. I remember there have been many initial days presentation where the young scholars used to come, and they, by the time they come, they start using the terms like ANOVA, MANOVA, regression, chi-square. Now, that is something which many of the laymen, they are not able to understand. And that's where the purpose of research talk gets defeated, because you are losing on the opportunity of getting the actual information that was supposed to come. Yes, these are the statistical tools, but don't get too much engrossed with these statistical tools, because ultimately they are going to solve a social problem. So you never know what kind of people are sitting in your case, and there are most likely that it is going to have combination of all the people. So we have to prepare our research talk in such a way that we can cater to all these kind of people. I'm talking about the conference presentation specifically. This is a common classroom picture, which I like the most, and you will see that there are people who are sitting inside. This can be your audience. So this is a common classroom that we try to understand. But a conference actually looks like this. A conference looks like this. So if you see everybody is oriented towards you, and if you miss out the opportunity of catering to their requirement, the whole session is going to become like this. So it's up to you that how you are designing your research talk, whether you want your audience to be listening to you like this, or you want your audience to be doing something like this. Only the front benchers will be giving some attention to you, and the rest of the people will be lost somewhere. So who are the audience? We also have to keep in mind that they might be tired, because the conferences, research talks happens almost for 3 to 4 hours a day. I believe Dr. Ruhilal has already taken 1 hour in this session alone. So I have to understand that you all are tired. And I also have to understand that you can read. You are not just going to listen to what I'm speaking. And many of you are thinking why I should listen. Similarly, the non-experts, if I'm not able to grab your attention, you will tune off within 2 minutes. And experts will tune off after 5 minutes. So what you can do? So the first thing is that you have to connect yourself with the audiences. So something we call as early motivation. So connecting yourself with the audience is something which is very, very important. And you can do it by following a punchline. Since I'm an expert giving today, I did not use the punchline, but it could be a good technique. Or you can give your idea by way of some sort of images or diagram. How to give those things, we'll be doing it in upcoming slides. So let us understand what is the objective of our research talk. At the end of the research talk, I have already discussed with you that we need to take the opinion of them. The point is that at the end of the talk, whether they have understood that the problem was delivered to them or not. If my audience is clear that what was the problem, why it was important. Simply saying global warming is happening, we all are going to die, it's not going to solve the problem. But why global warming is happening and how we are contributing to the global warming, that is something which is more important. Because global warming is happening and we are all going to die is going to be a fact. But whether we are contributing to a global warming, and are we going to be somebody who is going to be a threat for the society later on, that is something that we have to deliver. And once the people have the realization that in the global warming that is happening around us, even they are responsible, that is the time we have won the situation. So it is not just about telling them, it is about realization also, why a particular topic is important. What then the audience should have the idea about the solution, whether this idea is better or different. The audience should be able to know this one. And that is why where I talk about research significance, whether my research was significant for them or not. And the audience should also understand that I know the concepts. And one other thing which I often target and I often tell to my peers as well, that whenever we are going to the conferences, one of the major things that we have to win is networks and collaboration. Conference is not just a place where you are simply delivering your talk. It is also a place where you are expanding your networks, you are expanding your collaborations. So if you are able to get a collaboration, it is a very wonderful feeling. The moment you end your talk and you move outside for tea, people rush towards you and they show you the willingness that I want to collaborate with you. That is a feeling that you will only realize once you have achieved it. It's a wonderful feeling as a researcher. There are people who are willing to collaborate with you. So how you can do it? So here are some of the things. You can do it by way of motivating about your work. You can use basic intuition. You can show solutions or the baby problems, or you can highlight the extreme cases. So the whole thing which you are going to use, this is the examples are going to be your weapons. So once you have the examples with you, that is something which is going to play a very important role in your entire presentation. So not just connecting your research talk, but also the examples that are associated with your talk, something which is going to help you. Okay. Now, if we are here, there are many kinds of people who doze off in between. They will get lost. That is something that we have to understand. It's a human psychology that nobody can listen continuously to someone for 1 hour or so. The same thing is going to happen today as well. And that is a fact, and we have to appreciate it. So what happens is that we can create an outline for our idea, and once we have the outline, then people will be able to connect whether we have understood the outline or not. So here is something where we say that we have something like when we are presenting something, we have something called as pre-processing. We have to be very clear whether we are going to, what we are going to deliver and what we are going to keep with ourselves. Okay. Then next thing comes as a visual clue. Somebody's microphone is on. If you can just mute yourself, be a great help. There is a visual clue which highlights the situations. I have some example that I'll be showing you. And then you have something which we call as filtering. You really have to decide what you have to present and what you have to reserve with yourself. Okay. So I often say that they are called the skipping activities or skipping slides. So I'll skip this one just for your information. Okay. So this is a skipping slide that I have kept. So let's go inside. When we are giving a research talk, one of the most essential activity is I should know what is the meat of my work. I'm sorry if I'm talking to the vegetarian lot of this right now, but for the non-vegetarians, I must tell you that we don't eat bones, we just eat meat. So the bones have to be left aside, the meat has to be delivered. or the crux of the entire story, the main part of your presentation has to be delivered. And leave the rest of the things. Once you have delivered the meat of your presentation, they will be convinced to read your paper and they will get back to you. How to do that? That is something we are going to do now. Okay, so I want all of you to pay attention to what we are going to start now, because this is more like a hands-on kind of activity where whatever I'm going to speak, it is full of examples and you can see yourself about your PPTs. If you have a PPT already with you, you can check for yourself whether it is in the right track or not. Okay, so first of all, the skeleton. Whether my presentation has talked about the problem or not. If it has talked about the problem, fine. If it has not, then I need to incorporate it. What is the motivation and what are the goals? In research, we talk about the objectives. Why we are doing it and what we want to achieve in very simple words. If your presentation talks about it, fair enough. If not, it has to be incorporated. The relevant state of art, the kind of artistic things that you are going to incorporate. There is something called as creative and there is something called as too much creative. We'll talk about it in my upcoming slides. What is your key idea? Whether it is covered or not. And what is your approach? Is the approach good? Or it can be still improved? And what you have said and what you have to say in the next slides. So when you're preparing the presentation, always remember that less is more. Fill your slides with narration. Don't fill it with sentences or words. And if you can, many people these days, they're using a lot of animations. If you can avoid using too much animation, it will be better. It even includes for those people who are including these as GIF images. Sometimes GIF images, what it does is that it simply distracts you. Use color to emphasize some points, but limit it to 2 or 3 colors only. Don't make it too much colorful. I have some examples I'll be showing you in my upcoming slides. And be consistent in the choice and use of font, size, color, and type. So if these things are clear, we have to use the slide real estate appropriate. Okay, so let us see what is happening here. So this page contains a lot of information. It's a bad layout, my dear. Okay, it's a bad layout. So the moment you bombard the audience with a lot of words and sentences, they are engrossed in reading, they will not listen to you. So it's a bad slide layout. A good slide layout is what? Show one point at a time. This will help the audience in concentrating what you are saying. It will prevent the audience of reading ahead. It will also keep your audience focused on your presentation. So these 3 things, if you are able to achieve, this is something which is not possible in the previous slide. Unfortunately, our students and many of the professors also, sorry to say, but they have the style of this. What they do is they have a PPT, sorry, they have the paper, they just copy paste the text from the paper into the PPT when they're going for research talk. And they, unfortunately, in our academic world, people, they don't say I'm giving a paper presentation. They say I'm going to read a paper. There's a difference between reading a paper and giving a paper presentation. In a conference, we give paper presentation. We don't read the paper. So paper reading is something, I don't know from where this concept has come, but there are many conferences in which people, they simply come and they read the paper as if the audiences cannot read. So the purpose is that the purpose of conference is defeated. Okay, the same thing applies to the font. Use a decent font size. Use different size of font for the main point and secondary point. For example, this font which you can appear right now is 24 point. The main point is 32 and the title font is 44. So 32, 24, 32, 44. This is an ideal size. You can make some alteration as per your own requirement. Now see this. If you're using small font, it becomes very difficult for the audience to read what you have written. And there are some people, they have a habit of capitalizing using uppercase for the entire sentences. So that is also, I'm giving you a nice live example here. So the previous was good, font size. Check for yourself. And this one. Sometimes because of the creativity, people, they use complicated fonts. They are using complicated fonts. So the ideal font to be used is Times New Roman or Arial, or you can even use Calibri for that information. But try to avoid using the complicated fonts. And color. For example, you always have to see the contrast. It should be having a sharp contrast with the background. For example, blue font on white background, like you can see here, is having a sharp contrast. If you're using a black background, then you can use a light gray or white color, it will have a sharp contrast. But light blue title and dark blue text. Okay. Or having a light blue color on a dark blue kind of background where the contrast is not that visible. That is something which is going to spoil everything. So try to use the color to emphasize a point, but use this only occasionally. For example, see this one. The choice of your color. So if you are using a color that does not make a contrast with the background, it becomes hard to read. And many times you are using colors for decoration, it becomes distracting and annoying. For example, you see the last line. Okay, so if you are using different color for each point, it is absolutely not necessary. It is not needed. 1 or 2 or maximum 3 colors can be used. You can see the last line when you are trying to be too much creative. What happens? Now, next issue is background. A simple background is always better for a research talk. Okay. Try to use the background which is light in color. These are people are using dark background also, but always remember that it should have contrast. Okay. Use the same background consistently throughout the presentation. When you are becoming too much creative, this becomes annoying and distracting. So avoid backgrounds that are distracting or difficult to read, or you always have to have a consistent background. Choose before you're drafting your PPT presentation which background you are going to use. Okay. Therefore, I'm saying that this is not an MBA presentation or something. Basic principle is still the same. You should still not become too much creative. But a research talk is something which is very serious in nature. Seriously. Okay. Now, coming on the research, we use excessive graphs in research, isn't it? We are using tables and graphs. We have the habit of showing our data. But the way we present it, okay. Many people who learn SPSS newly, what they do, they simply copy paste the table from the SPSS, they put it in the PPT as well. The same table extracted from the SPSS output, the same table is there in their paper, the same table is there in their PPT as well. My point is, once you have an opportunity and you are trying to be creative, if we can present the same data like this, what is harm? Data is same. Okay, when you have the opportunity to make it more audience friendly, why not we use the graphs like this? Okay, it will appeal the audience more as long as possible. Okay, some people, they become creative here as well. They use a lot of grid lines and then the situation becomes annoying again. So it's not about creating a lot of annoying graphs. See what is appeasing to your eyes and try to use that one in your PPT. So minor grid lines are unnecessary. Many times you are using font very small, the colors are illogical, the title is missing, the shading distracts. So this is what has happened in this kind of. You cannot read the numbers also. 20.4, 30.6, 27.4, it is almost unreadable. Whereas in this kind of graph, at least we are able to show them what is the frequency. For example, at least by seeing this one, I can say that in month of March, the sale of blue balls were highest in 2002. So it makes sense to me. Okay. Further, when you are preparing your slides, try to prepare the slide in advance and show it to your friends. Many times we are not able to identify the mistakes in our own work. So it is better that you show it to your friends if you are really serious. And once you think that you are done, you can read it again. And try to check the animations by putting the slideshow function. You can put this one and you can see whether your preparation of your research talk is inconsistent or not. Okay. And then the very important thing is practice, practice, practice. So give a practice talk to the general audience. If they are convinced, you can take their feedback. This is something which you can do in your research labs as well. When you are having some sort of where the research scholars sit, you can give a presentation. It will not take more than 5-10 minutes, and try to take their opinion about your presentation. See whether the slides are working properly on projector. See that the slides are not misbehaving in between. And you can also give the talk to the audience of expert. Like most of the universities in India, they have something called as pre-submission seminar for the PhD scholars. So where you are presenting your thesis to the body of experts and they are giving you some sort of opinion. So that is also a good platform to give. Time your presentation, allow for speed up and effect caused by nervousness, because especially once you are a novice, there are high chances that you will be nervous and you will not be able to give the presentation in a better way. So this is something which you can take care of. And this is something which happens very often these days. Always assume technology is going to fail you. So it is very important to have backups. I remember many of my friends, out of their nervousness, they used to copy shortcut files, which never used to run. What I do usually is, I'll just sharing you my secret. What I do usually is that if I have to give any sort of presentation, I mail that PPT to myself. So even if my flash drive is lost, at least I'll have it on mail. Otherwise, these days we have good online platforms like Microsoft has their online PPT. So PowerPoint presentation can be created online and you can access it from anywhere. Google has this in Google Docs. So you can do it from anywhere. So, but you should have the backup. And here comes the other aspect, which most of the soft skills people must be teaching you. Be enthusiastic. If you are not enthusiastic, why your audience will be enthusiastic? If you are not enthusiastic, if you are showing lack of enthusiasm, your audience cannot give you full support. You need to have an eye contact. I know right now we are having a visual, we are having an online platform where I cannot maintain my eye contact with most of you. And I believe that this presentation would have been better if we were in person, if we are attending in the physical form of session. But when you are delivering a research talk inside any sort of platforms, especially in the face-to-face kind of platforms, you can always maintain eye contact with the audience. There are techniques for eye contact as well. If I get a chance to visit Amity University, that time I'll tell you. I'll keep it for next time. And then identify a few noders. Like I can see Dr. Poonam Gaur has been continuously giving me notes. So she's a noder for me. So I'll have to, when I'm giving a session like this, you have to identify the noders and you try to speak to them because they are the people who are showing interest to you. So when they're showing interest to you, they are the ones who will have questions and you can have an engaging session with them. Then watch for questions, the most traumatic part of a research presentation, that you have to watch for questions and try to prepare. I have the next slide will tell you how you can prepare yourself for the audience questions. So when you are delivering the talk, point at the screen, not at the computer. Many of the, if you have ever witnessed this TEDx, TED Talks and all, they usually refer to the projection. They don't see the laptop screen. You don't have to see your computer. There are many people, what they do is they put the laptop on the podium when they're delivering a talk, and continuously they are talking to the computers there on the podium. You have to connect. One of the important element of connecting with the audience is that try to see what audience are seeing. So audience are seeing your projection, your screen. Audience are not seeing your laptop or your computer. So try to connect with the audience by seeing what they are seeing. It will help you to move around and then deal in a better way. Do not read directly from the PPT or your notes. Try to have an engaging conversation. With this, what will happen is that the audience will be able to develop a connect with you. And then try to help spill for the first couple of slides. Okay? Try to have a spill, means in case something wrong happens. Let's say my PPT does not work. Okay, audience is sitting there to listen to me. I'll say, please wait. Let me fix my PPT. The answer is no. I have to start with something so that my audience is engaged. The technical team will take care of the PPT. Stay assured. In the conferences, they have strong technical teams. So if the organizers are there, have trust on them, they will fix it. So you can engage your audience for some time. Okay, so have the spills and then finish in time. So same thing applies on me as well. I have to finish on time. So the next issue is handling questions. So you have to, there are different kind of people, there are different type of questions. So we have to handle accordingly. We have to have a realization again here. There are people who will need clarification. Okay, so they have to be handled differently. There are people who don't have clarification, they have suggestion, which might be helpful. But they are not expecting a defense from your side. It is not like that if somebody will ask question to me, I have to defend myself every time. If somebody is giving you a suggestion, accept it very politely, say thank you for your suggestion, I'll take care of it next time. Okay, it does not mean that somebody is giving you a suggestion, you try to defend yourself. You are defeating the purpose of a research talk. There are some who are expert in the field already, and they want to engage in a research dialogue. So they want to have a kind of a research conversation. They are not necessarily looking for a defense. They are looking more like a discussion. Then there are some people like this as well. You have to accept this. There are some people who feel that they are better than you, and they will show that they are better than you. So the idea is very simple. If you find these kind of people, serve their purpose. If they feel that they are better than, means if somebody feels that he is better than me, I have to accept that they are better than me. Okay, instead of defending, because no matter how much you defend, you are not going to defeat them. So you have to identify these kind of people. So there are 4 kind of people, and there has been some anticipated questions. So you have to prepare for the questions that are going to come. What I usually do is that I prepare some slides extra where the anticipated questions can be taken later on. And because once you are delivering the slides, or it's obvious that there are some frequently asked questions. There are some questions which is very, very expected. So we can have those things. But one thing that you have to allow is that don't allow the audience to hijack the talk. As a presenter, this is your responsibility. So how can you get better? You can practice every chance you can. You can observe others. You can steal good presentation idea. You can notice the good things and the bad things which others have done. Adopt the good things, leave the bad things. Try to see comments from the friends and mentors. And these are the resources from where I have borrowed these things. So with this, I'll put an end to my presentation, and the house is now open for questions if you have any. I'll be happy to address it.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving a lot of insights about the presentation skills in the research. And now we have few questions from the participants. I am going one by one. Just a minute. Yeah. So there is a question from Amit Kumar, PhD researcher, HNB Garhwal University. He asked, you asserted in the beginning that one must own his or her research, but why a researcher is forbidden to use personal pronouns, specifically I, in the arguments?
The first thing is, there's something called as the academic writing style. One of the style of academic writing is that we always use a third person form. We never say I. When we are saying I, basically we are referring to somebody who himself is a researcher. And that is the reason more advisable terminology to be used is the researcher. The researcher feels, the researcher want to say. If you think you are an authority, if you think you are an authority, then using I would be a better word. But even the kings of the world, they don't use the term I because it is very, very offensive. I am saying this, I am doing this. This is something which is very, very offensive because research is something which is a very formal kind of activity and the formal level of commitments and approach has to be maintained. So that is the reason even in the academic writing classes also, you will feel that the third person is more appropriate. Or people these days, they are going for the direct form of speeches also. They say we in case they are a research team. But I feel that even we is not good. It is always better to use the researcher. The researcher feels, the researcher would like to suggest, the researchers conclude. So if you are using yourself as a researcher, it is a much more decent way of addressing yourself. I hope I have addressed your query.
Yes, sir. So now we are moving to the another question. This is asked by the Juhi Baveja, PhD scholar in Amity, ESCO, Noida. You spoke of not having too much text, but what if you have to use direct quotes, especially if it's literature review?
When you're using direct quotes, the quotes have to look like quotes. It should not be a paragraph. So when you're using quotes, for example, there comes a time in the history of a nation when it can be said the time has come to create history. This is a 3-letter quote by Manmohan Singh. Okay. If I add on the sentences, because he delivered this one on the 15th August, try to put the entire slide cluttered with speech, that is something which should be avoided. There are some of the key terminologies and definitions which people have given. We cannot avoid using it. We have to use it, but try to see that's where your judgment comes into picture, that you have to put those things which does not make it's boring for the audience. Okay, so it is not about, when I say quote, it has to be one sentence. It cannot be a paragraph. So that is something we need to avoid.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir.
I would like to add one more point on this. In good research talks, even if you are presenting your literature review, instead of presenting the literature review in detail, you can give a brief snapshot of literatures. And there is something which is known as the background of research. Now, background of research, which is based on the literature review, it has to be narrated instead of writing on PPT. Okay, I hope I have addressed it.
Yeah, definitely, sir. So there is one more question from a PhD research scholar from the Fine Arts Department, and she's Premalata Srivastav, and she's asking about what should be the sample size. Is there any set formula for that?
There are many formulas. It depends on the population. For example, if your population is big, in case your population, you think that you are conducting a research on the residents of Noida, for example. Now, in Noida, millions of people are staying. Now, in that case, it will not be difficult. It will be very difficult for me to connect all these millions of people. So I can adopt the sample size determination technique for big population, for which we have one very good formula is by Cressy and Morgan, which says if your population size is more than 15,000, you can take the minimum sample size as 384. So sample size determination, one myth which I want to clarify here is, it is not the total sample size. All the sample size determination tells you the minimum sample size to address a particular problem. So even if you are using Cressy and Morgan and you feel that your sample has been 2000 and you have collected by Cressy and Morgan 384, okay, you can still collect 2000 because 384 is the minimum threshold. It should not be less than 384. Now, for a small sample size, these days one very good software has come. It is free. It is called G Star Power. Just an hour ago, I used it because my sample size was 71. So it is for the small sample size, G Star Power. So in the small sample size, if you want to justify, you can have as low as 34 samples also. So it is G Star Power, which you can use. Otherwise, we have many sample size determination techniques. We have Rogers formula. But most of the time when I'm dealing with my researches, I use Cressy and Morgan for big population, and for small population, I'm using G Star Power. But this is minimum sample size. There is no software which tells you the exact sample size. This gives you a minimum threshold that should be at least this many, 100, 150, 250. That's the minimum that you have to approach. Next query, if I have addressed it.
Yes, sir. So there is one more question. What are the effective ways of presenting a research work? This is a problem a lot of research scholars they are facing. Whenever they are doing research and they gather a lot of data, and what should include in the presentation and what should not.
That's the reason I use the term meat of your talk. Now, for example, my main objective, if the people, they will look into their main objective, and as long as they're answering the main objective, the research presentation is complete. Many times what happens is that if a person has formulated, let's say 10 hypotheses, you do not have to prove all the 10 hypotheses. If one of the major hypotheses has been proved or one of the major objectives has been met, that is enough for a research talk. I remember it was a shocking experience for me as well. I believe it was some big association of India. I will not take the name of it. When I went there, I was a simple presenter that time. The chairs came. We were 80 presenters and they had just 2 hours. So 120 minutes for 80 presenters. So roughly we were going to get 1 minute. So apparently this kind of situation may come. So in that case, we have to be very clear that what is our main topic, means what is our main problem and what is the solution. A question and answer of approach would be so my main objective and the answer to the main objective, the main conclusion.
Okay. So there is a query from one of the participant, Dr. Suchita Chandok. She is asking about, please share the name of the tool for determining the small sample size. If you can elaborate on that.
Power. If I don't know whether I have write it on the chat box. It is called G Star Power. I put it on the chat box. It's a free software.
G Star Power.
Yeah, and if you want to use it, then you have to organize.
Thank you so much, sir. So, I'm just checking the question answer and the chat box simultaneously, sir. Just give me a little time. I'll check whether there are other questions. Yeah. So, sir, there is a question from Garima Sahu. Kindly shed some light on grey literature and how come we identify it and correct it.
Grey literature basically means the literature which is many times what we do is that the grey literature is something which is we really have to see there are many sources from where we are going to take the literature. This is something that we have to spend more time on, because these days what happens is that kind of source for literature review that plays a very important role. Where you have to be very conscious that the literature that you are adopting, it is coming from a credible source. For example, Wikipedia is not a credible source. Many of the research scholars, unfortunately, especially the young researchers, what they do is they are heavily dependent on Google. So when you are dependent on Google, the first input Google gives you will be from a Wikipedia or Investopedia, which is not a credible source. That's the first thing. So this falls under the category of grey literature because it is not a white literature. It is not published from a credible source. The second thing is that many people, they get scared. I'll tell you my example just now. 2 hours before, one of my students came and she said that I'm not able to find anything on internet. it is not a threat actually. It's actually an opportunity. If you are not able to find anything on internet, that is an opportunity that nothing has been done on it. Okay, so nothing has been done. It means it's a good news for you that you can do something. So the people who are sitting here, if you want to start your career in research, don't do Google. Instead of Google, use Google Scholar. But if you're using Google Scholar also, try to see the index of that particular journal from where you are taking something. There are many fake journals. There are many derogatory journals. There are many predatory journals. Avoided. Don't do any sort of review. Just simply publish your paper. Try to avoid them. Open access, most of the open access, you have to be very conscious in taking care of them. I'm sure that the institutes like Amity has good subscription. So try to see those journals which are restricted and you can only access through your Amity or your institutional IDs. So that will be a better one. So in that case, we'll be able to refer to the white papers, white journals, or the white literatures. Try to avoid the black and the gray. I hope I have addressed.
Definitely, yes, sir. So there is one more question from another participant, Lilina. Can we use personal experience in a research paper?
The answer is yes. The answer is yes. But the way you present it has to be declared in the methodology part. See, what happens is that this method is known as the experiential word, which we denote for it. One is called as the experiential research, other one is known as observation-based research. So you have to declare it in the methodology part, and that based on the observation of the researcher, based on the field visits. If you see most of the science-based researches, they use the observation techniques and they complement it with photographs. The same technique can be adopted in social sciences as well, where you can have the videos, you can have the images, where you can use and you can complement your things. And you can always use your observation. You can always use your observation, because observation is something, and the source will be the field trips. Especially in journalism, journalism is mostly it is coming from the observation method, because journalists, they go to the field and they are doing this kind of research, but it has to be clarified in the methodology part. And there are specific kind of journals who are, but again, I'll say that it is one of the most disregarded techniques in the modern society, because people are more fussy now about the statistical techniques and other things. It is not very regarded, but it can be used. It can be used. It is a credible source, as long as you want to do it. There is one journal called EP, Economics and Political Weekly, and they entertain these kind of papers, observation. Even Harvard Business Review also, they are in this kind of paper, which is based on observation. But it has to be a solid observation. It cannot be just any observation. It has to be very, very firm. Means something which is happening in real. That kind of thing should be there.
So another question from one of the participants, Kurinjini Chelvan. When I'm referring any points or articles in a literature review, should it be in the past tense or in a present tense?
There are two techniques of it, actually. If you go by the academic writing style, whatever you are writing has to be a present tense. But when you are referring to a data which has happened in the past, it has to be in the past tense. Okay, but otherwise, it has to be written in a simple present tense. Okay, so that is one of the principles that we adopt in academy. It has to be in principle present tense. But when you are referring to a past data or past record, it has to be in the past tense. You cannot avoid it. Otherwise, present tense is more suitable.
Okay, so the question from Saurabh Pandey. What about large sample size, and which software we generally use for doing that?
For large sample size, instead of using the software, there are some of the literatures. For example, there is Rogers formula. This says they call it the golden 376. So they say that the moment your population is more than 10,000, your minimum sample size will be 376. Other one is called Cressy and Morgan, 1970. It says that the moment your population is more than 15,000, your maximum means the minimum sample size will be 384. Now there's a formula, and there are some online calculation tools as well, which is available. But the problem is that for this large calculation, the online tools are not appreciated. Star is one of the credible tools which is accepted all across the good index journals as well. But for Cressy Morgan and for Rogers formula, there is no software so far, to my knowledge. If recently somebody has developed it, I don't know. But to my knowledge, there is not there. But what we usually do is we just cite them. That since my population was more than 10,000, as per Roger, I have taken 376. As per Cressy Morgan, it should be 384. So it becomes a very valid tool to justify your 700 sample size, 800 sample size, or 1,000 sample size, whatever. So the minimum threshold is achieved. So that becomes easy. So you can cite it, you can cite them, and you can use it. And the formula is also available. You can Google them and you will get the formula.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, another question from Preeti Verma. Which font is suitable to present our work on presentation?
I did not get you. Can you say it again?
Yes, sir. Actually, she is asking about the font. Which font is suitable to present the work on the presentation?
Arial and Times New Roman is the best font for any sort of presentation. These days we are using Calibri as well. For writing your work, you're publishing it with some journal. The journal also accepts Times New Roman is the most accepted font across all the publication houses. Most of the publication houses now these days they are using for publishing the papers, but from the author it is better to send them Times New Roman.
Okay. So there is one more question from Pramod Pandey. He is a PhD scholar from Central University of South Bihar. Clarify about number of PPTs in the paper presentation.
That is very subjective. It depends on the content that you want to deliver. For example, I just now presented around 42 slides. It depends. Sometimes I can deliver a talk of 1.5 hours with just 8 slides. It depends on the content. It depends on the other things. So if you have more amount of data to show, definitely using more slides. So it is very, very subjective. It cannot be defined.
Yes, because some of the organization, they are also setting some rules related to the how many slides we will have to include in the presentation.
But yes, even if they have that, they have the set framework. They say that one slide has to be dedicated to problem statement, one slide for literature review, one slide for data analysis, and you have to give the snapshot of it. You are not supposed to give the deep details of your presentations.
So, little bit different question from the context. How we can differentiate between clone journal? Okay, I'm not able to
and
see
real
the
journal.
question. Yeah. Yes. Cloned and the real. Yes, sir.
I believe it will again take you for another session. But in very simple terms, I have to tell you, you can find it out from the source web page from the indexes. For example, if a journal claims to be Scopus index, so you go to scopus.com, you search that journal by their name, there will be something called as the source web page. So you click there, it will take you to the website where that journal is listed. So you will avoid, for example, there can be for the same journal, let's say Journal of Business Research, journalofbusinessresearch.com. Now clone people, what they just change the extension of it. They'll say Journal of Business Research.in or Journal of Research.org. In order to know the correct platform, if it is a Scopus journal, go to the scopus.com, search the journal and go to the homepage, the source page of it. If it is UGC listed, I believe they also have the source page is listed there. Web of Science also, it has a source page linked with this one. So with that, at least you can find out. Otherwise, I was going through your schedule. Sumit Narula is going to come on the last day. So he will be next to talk about it. And he
on 28th.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. You are correct. He is going to take the session on the same on 28th of February, the day 7 for this workshop.
So he'll take you in detail, don't worry. I'll not get into his domain.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, sir. There is one more question. What is the best presentation technique of research work? Is there any?
The one which I just presented.
Definitely it is. Yeah. So you can see how many curious our participants are. They have a lot of queries. They posted a lot of questions, and I think they are starting their research journey. A lot of PhD research scholars, those who are asking you what can be a number of slides, what can be the font, and you have already given a lot of insights and you elaborate all each and every point in detail.
There are two FQs, frequently asked question. One is how many authors can author or could be joined as co-authors. Nobody has asked that question. Nobody has asked the question so far how to search a journal. Nobody has asked the question how to search a conference. So these are some of the FAQs which I often address to. So if nobody is going to ask them, I'll tell them at the later stage.
Yes, sir. So in between, I got another question from Muhammad Ashfaq, and he's asking about, sir, please elaborate on research gap.
Research gap. Research gap is
Yeah.
something, means it can be contextual gap, it can be theoretical gap, it can be implication based gap. So it depends on how you're going to justify a gap. So research gap basically, if once you see that the body of literature does not talk about a specific area which you think was very significant. Let's say you belong to a place, you belong to a village which is very significant in certain aspects, but you think that the body of literature, the way a particular concept is presented, your village is going to vaccinations. The entire world is now promoting, they're asking their population to get vaccinated. Now, if you think that there is a country which is going other way around, which is saying vaccinated, let's go for herd immunity. Okay. Now, this is a gap which has never been addressed because herd immunity is something we have a lot of literature available on vaccination, but very less amount of literature is available on herd immunity. The same thing applies to social science-based researchers also. When you are having any sort of, once you have a question in your mind, the first thing you do is you go on internet and you are searching for it. If you are getting the answer from the internet, sometimes there are some gaps which is not existing, but you feel that this gap is there and I need to address it. For example, the currency crisis which I was mentioning in the beginning of my presentation. In 2012, this currency surfaced in Bhutan. It was only in the later part of 2012 or the early part of 2013 that this currency crisis surfaced. So this is something which you call as that something which you foresee will happen. Okay, so this is more like that is also because of gap at times. One of the easiest way what we do is we ask students to go on, check whether they are getting information or not. The moment you don't find any information on the particular aspect, it means there's a lot of gap available there. Now, gap could be because of two reasons. Number one, no research is conducted in that area. Number two, less researches has been conducted in that area. So both are a kind of gap that you need to fulfill. And I believe there's a session on this, which is going to come.
Yes, sir. So another question from Neha Kumari. Please explain right way of approaching good journals.
Means there are two ways. First thing is to identify a good journal and write a paper for it. That is the best way, the targeted journal approach. The second way is that you have a paper and now you have to do a kind of arranged match. You have to find a good match for it. So in that case, you have to find out for the publisher, see what you are aspiring for, and somewhere your confidence level also plays an important role. If you think that your paper is prepared for A category journal, go for it. You have to streamline yourself. You search the journal from the A category. If you think it's from a C category, you simply want a Q4 or Q3 of Scopus, go for it. Many of the students, unfortunately, in India, they have put this UGC as a benchmark for them. So if you think that you just want to publish in a UGC, go for it. And there are some people who just want a free journal. So you have a choice. So basically, it depends that what is your objective, what are the requirements, because each of these levels, if you want to go for UGC Careless, Scopus, Web of Science, or the categories in ABDC list, each of them requires a different approach. So the best approach is the journal target approach, that you first identify a journal, that this is my dream journal, matching my area. I want to publish my paper in this journal. So next, read the papers from that journal, see how things are published there, how things are accepted, and then go for it. So that's the best approach.
So, sir, another question from Preeti Verma. How to search for the conferences?
That's a very good question. Even I face this problem. There is conferencealert.com, which is a central repository of most of the conferences that are happening across the world. There is easychair.com, where you can get the update, get your account into it. If you want to the good conferences, again, you have to hunt for the good institutions. So like, for example, I'm sure Amity University Noida must be offering an annual conference. So if my target is Amity University, I can target Amity University Noida's conference. Like business students, they often target IIM Ahmedabad's conference. So you can go for IIM Ahmedabad conference as well. So you can have the institutional target as well. Otherwise, if you just want to publish a paper or you are just looking for something, again, for conferences also, you have to have a very clear mindset. Some conferences, they are very, very keen on having very serious discussions. Okay. They even pay money for the participants to come attend the sessions and do things. So they are very serious conference. There are doctoral conclaves, which happens in India. I believe IPS Hyderabad does one doctoral conclave. So they pay you money for attending those conclaves. There are some international agencies also which are doing these kind of conclaves, so you can target them. Otherwise, you can get the conference-related alerts, alert.com. Even there are some Facebook pages now. Even the penetration of conference alert is now going down. People are going for the Facebook pages. There are WhatsApp groups. The only thing is register yourself, become a member of some association. Automatically, you will get a lot of notification on the WhatsApp group. That's a shortcut these days.
Now is the time for your favorite question, sir, which you want to address.
My favorite question.
You were saying that no one asked this question, ki how many scholars can do one research paper?
The answer depends on the research team, the internal agreement of the team. I have seen papers which have even 30 authors also. So it depends on the research team. There is one publication house, it is known as MDPI. MDPI, what they do is they are a top listed publication house, but they usually publish through open access and they charge a big amount of money from the authors. So starting from 1,60,000 in Indian rupees to 5 lakh rupees they are charging for publishing one paper. Now, what happens for MDPI is that most of the people, in the academic world, the only thing which we have earned is the respect and reverence of the students. In the academic world, we don't earn money. So most of the academicians, what they do is that they join hands to contribute money in this kind of. So if the amount is 500,000, so 10 people will join together. They will say, okay, let's contribute 50,000 each and let's publish a paper there. That if your paper is published, number one, the review process is fast. They're very keen on the quality. But once your paper is published, it will be in Q1 or Scopus, or at least it will be at least B. So automatically it influences your citations. So in those kind of things, most of the time the people are contributing money, so they become part of the authorship. Otherwise, it depends on the internal arrangement. But in any 4 to 5 is an acceptable number for co-authors. You don't have to worry that there are 4 authors, 5 authors, 6 authors. 4 or 5 is an acceptable number in most of the papers, even for the top researchers also. If you want to increase your publications, you have to do the collaborative work. There is no other option. You cannot do researches alone. The best researches are done through collaborations. You see all the top authors that you are quoting in your paper, higher et al. There will be, the moment I say et al, there are more than 3 people involved. Okay. So most of the people will find that it all is attached to their name. It means it is a collaborative research where more than 3 people are involved. So it is 4 to 5 is a good number. Sufficient can be 6 also. But many people, you have to see your future also. Many organizations, they prefer sole authorship. Many organizations, they prefer principal authorship. So you have to see the requirement of the organization where you are working. But from Scopus and Web of Science perspective, 4 to 5 is a good number.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. And there is another question from Ahmed. How to find what to research so that we engage into a research which has practical utility?
This requires a 1 hour session actually, because because this requires a lot of deliberation. It depends basically on your interest, number one, what you want to do, and how much conviction you have on that particular topic. So many researches are there which has theoretical implication. Some researcher which has practical implication. So when the type of question that you are having practical implication, which is triggering to solve a practical problem. So when you are looking for a practical problem, it means you have found out a problem and you are triggering to a practical solution. So it depends on what is the quantum. If the problem is big, the solution is also going to be very, very significant. If the problem is small, the significance is also going to be small. But from the publication point of view, we always have to see the generalizability of the paper, how far your finding is generalizable, and how far it is catering to the requirements of the people or the editors of the journal. So that is something which is very important. But it depends.
There is another question from Amna. How can we have collaboration with research bodies who are already working on meaningful research projects so that scholars contribute productively?
I must tell you one thing, that actually these bodies are looking for people who can work for them. It is difficult to find people who are dedicated and work. For example, me, I really struggle in finding out people who can collaborate effectively with me, honestly speaking, because what happens is